Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night staring at the dark ceiling and asked yourself, was I abandoned, or did I abandon myself first? That aching feeling when you realize the woman you loved may have never truly loved you. It's like standing in the middle of a storm without a compass. Every sweet word you believed, every embrace you held on to, now feels like pieces in a chess game where you were never the real player. The man you once were kind, devoted, always there, has suddenly become a fading shadow in his own love story. And if that kindness was supposed to be your armor, it somehow turned you invisible. But don't rush to pity yourself. This pain, if you have the courage to face it, can be a turning point. Because only when you stare directly into the wound will you see the knife and the hand holding it, which might just be your own. Modern men rarely lose because they don't love enough. They lose because they love in a way that's too predictable. You become an open map. She only has to glance once to know everything. What you'll say today, what you'll do, how you'll react. And in the unconscious language of desire, that predictability is the kiss of death. Sounds unfair. It is. But it's not a conspiracy by women. It's the legacy of millions of years of evolution. Our female ancestors didn't survive by choosing the nicest man, but by choosing the hardest man to conquer. The man who could protect, not just the man who would sacrifice. That genetic code still runs quietly in their minds, no matter what fairy tales they tell you and themselves. Here's the paradox. The more you try to prove your love, the more you strip away the one thing that fuels attraction, emotional tension. In psychology, dopamine, the neurotransmitter that sparks excitement, doesn't spike from certainty, it spikes from uncertainty. A text message delayed by 3 hours can trigger more dopamine than a bouquet worth $100. You think love is built on communication, understanding, sharing. She says so too, but her body reacts differently. She lights up when she talks about the guy who once threw her heart into chaos. You hear this and tell yourself she's just attracted to bad guys. Not exactly. It's a survival reflex drawn to the man who doesn't let her claim total mental territory. The mistake many men make is turning a relationship into full surrender. You give everything before she's had to earn it. You turn yourself from a mountain to conquer into a flat meadow to stroll through. The result? No mystery, no challenge, and no reason for her heart to race when she thinks of you. Schopenhauer said love is nature's trick to keep the species going, but stopping there is shallow. Love is also a test of a man's frame, and civilized men often lose because they forget that frame can't be faked. You can act aloof for a few weeks, but once your need for acceptance shows, you'll tear down the walls yourself. The issue isn't playing hard to get. The issue is that you've lost the core that once made you hard to get, purpose, passion, a life outside the relationship. She didn't leave because you weren't good enough. She left because you were no longer you, the man with his own world, the man she had to work to be part of. And now you have to ask yourself, do you want to be that man again to win her back? Or to win yourself back? Because if the answer is the second one, that's the path to making sure no one, her, or anyone else ever dares to take you for granted again. Let's be honest, when she started pulling back her attention, what did you do? You doubled your efforts. More messages, more promises, more. You're my everything. And with each extra push, a piece of your attraction faded. Harsh truth. That's how human psychology works. The easier something is to have, the less value it holds. This isn't a romance philosophy, it's basic economics applied to emotion, but it goes deeper. In attachment theory, men with anxious tendencies often try to calm their insecurity by increasing their presence. You didn't respond to her distance with composure, you responded with fear of abandonment. And unconsciously, she felt it. You don't need to read Freud to understand women don't look for a man who needs them to feel whole. They look for a man who is already whole and chooses to stay not because he must, but because he wants to. Modern culture sells men a dangerous lie: if you're good enough, caring enough, loving enough, you'll win in love. But love isn't a moral competition, it's a flow of attraction and respect. When you turn yourself into a 24/7 service, you're no longer a gift. You're a utility. And no one respects a utility. You might protest, but I want her to be happy. Isn't that what a man should do? Yes, but not by sacrificing every boundary you have. A man who loses the ability to say no stops being a partner and becomes a tool. And at a subconscious level, attraction dies right there. Think about the men she's mentioned with a spark in her eyes. They weren't necessarily richer than you, better looking than you, or smarter than you. What did they have in common? They didn't put her at the center of their universe. They were busy with their own mission. They didn't react instantly to every demand. They had the ability and the willingness to walk away if things went against their principles. And ironically, that ability to leave is often what makes a woman want to stay. In evolutionary terms, this is called an indicator of value. A peacock with brilliant feathers doesn't go door to door begging peahens for attention. It only shows its feathers when it chooses, then walks away. Real value never begs to be recognized. It radiates. Your fatal mistake wasn't a lack of love, it was losing your frame. Every time you rushed to prove your worth, you silently admitted you weren't sure you had it. And women, even without words, sense that the way you sense the temperature in a room. Remember, this isn't about pretending to be busy or playing games. It's about restoring a truth you've forgotten. You once had a life, a mission, a map no one, not even her, could control. And when you step back into that space, not to impress her, but because it's where you belong, everything changes. True attraction doesn't come from proving you're better than someone else. It comes from not needing to prove it at all. And here's the paradox. When you don't need to prove, people, including her, start wanting to find out for themselves. So the question is no longer, how do I keep her? The question is, how do I become the man she or anyone can't disregard? And the answer will take you to a new territory where your silence carries more weight than any argument ever could. Have you ever wondered why most men today grow up with the exact same script for love, from Hollywood movies to self-help books, to viral social media posts? The message is almost identical. Be the nicest, most caring man, and she will love you. The problem, that's a script written to make men spectators in their own story. Modern society never tells you that attraction doesn't follow the rules of social morality. You're taught how to be right instead of how to be interesting. You're encouraged to sand down every sharp edge, erase every difference, and become the safest version of yourself. And that safety kills curiosity and desire. Men are programmed to believe they must always be available, always accommodating, always replying instantly. But look around. The men who are always online, always ready to fix every drama, are usually the ones left behind first. Not because women are cruel, but because biology and culture have combined into an invisible filter, removing men who can't hold their frame. From an evolutionary perspective, women have always had to be selective. They look for signals that a man can survive and thrive in an unpredictable environment. In the modern world, survival isn't about hunting or fighting off predators. It's about navigating social pressure, holding steady under stress, and not being pulled into someone else's emotional storm. When you overreact to every challenge she throws at you, you're signaling that you're easily swayed, and that's a red flag in her unconscious map. But don't be quick to blame her. Women aren't sitting down making plans to eliminate you. This is a natural mechanism, just like how you instinctively feel wary around someone who seems too fragile in a dangerous situation. Society just makes it worse by encouraging men to live against their own biology, by dulling their edges, abandoning their territory, and turning themselves into an endless supplier of emotional comfort. Worse still, those harmless-sounding slogans like "happy wife, happy life" quietly erode your autonomy. When your happiness is entirely dependent on pleasing someone else, you stop being the driver and become the passenger. And no one is attracted to someone who isn't holding the wheel of their own life. Here's where you need to get clear. Society will keep telling you to try harder every time you're rejected. But sometimes the truth is the opposite. You need to try. Less appeasing, less reacting, less giving without being asked. Instead of accelerating, you need to step back, not to manipulate, but to reclaim what's yours, your time, your focus, your authority. Picture a king. He doesn't go door to door begging his people to like him. He rules by his presence and the order he sets. If someone doesn't respect his laws, he doesn't plead for their return, he lets them go. Real power is the ability to lose without collapsing. And here's the key. Modern culture wants you to believe masculine power is dangerous and must be tamed. But true power doesn't require violence or control over others. It's the quiet strength of a man who knows who he is, lives by his own principles, and refuses to let anyone or anything define his worth. Once you see the game, how evolution, social pressure, and man reprogramming narratives work, you realize the enemy isn't women. The enemy is the version of you that was programmed to forget your original strength. And your mission now isn't to fight women, it's to delete the old program and rewrite it. Because when you return to being the man society can't domesticate you, no longer have to argue about your value. You live it. And that's when every look, hers included, changes. Once you've seen the mechanism, the question is no longer, why did she leave? But who will I become from this moment on? This is where most men stumble. They understand the game but try to act their way into winning it. They learn a few tricks, staying silent, keeping distance, pretending to be busy. But those are still masks. And masks might impress at first, but they never hide the truth for long. The starting point isn't changing your behavior to be more attractive to women, it's rebuilding your foundation from the inside. You have to start with what no one else sees. Disciplined goals, health mindset. When your inner world becomes solid, your silence carries weight. When you have your own mission, your time becomes precious. When you're truly satisfied with yourself, you stop chasing validation, and that's when others start seeking validation from you. A man with real strength doesn't play games to create emotional tension. He's simply busy living his life. He doesn't try to be mysterious. The mystery comes from not putting everything on the table, because no one gets full access to his world right away. He doesn't try to say no, he says no because it's aligned with his principles. Picture the ideal archetype. A man walks into a room. No need to speak loudly, no need to show off, yet no one can ignore his presence. His eyes are calm but sharp. His posture is upright not because he's trying to impress, but because he's used to living with self-respect. He can talk, laugh, even crack a light joke, but you can feel an invisible boundary around him. That's the territory of someone who doesn't let others trespass without permission. Women are drawn to this kind of man not because he's cold, but because he is a self-contained world, a world they want to explore but can never own. And it's the inability to own it that keeps desire alive. The path there isn't lined with roses. It begins with solitude. You'll have to learn how to be alone without feeling empty. You'll have to face long nights without a single message and turn them into time to sharpen yourself. You'll have to stop looking for comfort from the outside and start finding strength from within. There will be moments when the loneliness hits so hard you want to quit to text her just to feel alive again. But remember that feeling is the test. And every time you pass it, you don't just win over her, you win over the man you were yesterday. Eventually, you'll realize this true masculine power doesn't come from being chosen, but from being the one who chooses. Not choosing who loves you, but choosing how you live, how you respond, what you give, and what you keep. You no longer beg for love, you give it selectively, like a king granting a privilege, not a soldier begging for mercy. And here's the greatest paradox: when you become the man who cannot be controlled, you don't just become more attractive to women, you become magnetic to life itself. Opportunities, relationships, respect, they all start coming to you because you've stopped chasing them. At the deepest level, men aren't born to make the world happy. They're born to shape it. And when you live with that spirit, you don't need anyone to tell you your worth, you are the proof of it. One day you'll look back and realize the moment she walked away wasn't the ending. It was the opening. It opened a road you had never dared to walk before, the road to becoming a man who cannot be broken. You'll remember the times you bowed your head and begged, rushed to prove your worth, gave everything before anyone had to earn it. And you'll smile. Not with arrogance, but with the knowing smile of a man who understands that every scar has become a seal. You no longer resent, you no longer expect, and you no longer fear losing, because loss only matters when you believe it takes something from you. Now you wear no mask. You don't play the part of the hard-to-get guy. You simply are yourself, authentic, self-governing, complete. You give without needing anything in return, but you never allow anyone to take you for granted. You walk into a room and need no introduction. Your silence says it all. And here's the truth that might surprise you. When you stop seeking love as a lifeline, you start attracting it like a sail catching the wind. You're not dragged along. You choose the direction. You don't need to be chosen, you choose. If you're hearing this and your heart is beating faster, take it as a signal, not to run back and beg someone, but to stand up, straighten your back, and start rebuilding your territory. Tomorrow morning, don't grab your phone first. Train red plan. This week, don't ask for more love, demand more from yourself. Because once you've awakened, you can't go back. And if you truly have awakened, I ask only one thing. Don't keep this to yourself. Share it with a man who's lost. Remind him he still has a chance. We don't need more fans. We need more brothers in arms. And if you're ready, let's walk together not to chase anyone, but to reclaim ourselves.